Alright, so what do you want to do here? Let me get your mic up real fast. I'll just ask you. Okay, so what were you saying about Bill?
Yeah, he's got that book. Yeah, there's a photo of me like on the stage with Mustaine, and he mentions the record store, like, because it came out later.
Yeah.
And I already had opened my record shop over in Monterey.
Yeah.
Because now it's like going on 30 years.
Okay. Oh, wait a minute. Would you mind pausing the music?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay. I do have that book too, so I could refer to that photo. That's cool. So what was the record store you opened in the Bay Area?
There was some friends of mine opened it called Record Vault.
Oh, okay. Was that the San Francisco or the Walnut
San
Creek?
Francisco.
Gotcha.
Walnut Creek was Record Exchange, and that was after.
That was a little bit later?
Yeah, that was in the early 80s.
Oh, okay. Did you host bands out there or anything? Or like,
we did. Well, we had signings. Mm-hmm. Like, we never had anybody playing live at the stores back then.
Yeah.
They always played live at venues. I think, maybe Tower or something might have had a band playing in their parking lot a couple of times. But it wasn't really unheard of, for like little bands to play in record stores back in those days.
Yeah, yeah.
That's kind of a newer, kind of a hipster thing,
What kind of record signings did you guys do there? Like Death Angel and stuff?
Yeah, Slayer, Overkill, Trouble, Death Angel, Metallica, Loudness. I mean, we had a bunch of bands come through there.
Nice. What year was Slayer?
That was early 80s, like, first couple of records.
Yeah. Very cool. And then Metallica?
That was right after Kill 'Em All came out.
Sweet. And then you drove for Metallica?
Yeah, well, what happened was I met Lars down at a Motorhead show in Southern California with the friends that opened the record store in the city. And they were friends with a band called Hawkwind, who had Lemmy in their band. So they knew Lemmy already. So Motorhead were going to be coming over to the States with Ozzy from Ace of Spades and playing down south. And my friend that had the record store, we're going to go down and meet him because they're old friends. And Lemmy's my old buddy, so we're going to go down and see him. Okay, cool. I'm not going to argue with that. I'm like, fuck yeah, right? So we go down to the country club, and the bus is down there, and, Lem gets off, and this kid gets off, and it's Lars. And then the other kid who got off was Rich Birch. And Banger Birch was Bang the Head That Doesn't Bang kid on the back of Kill 'Em All.
Yeah.
That kid, he was just a kid hanging out at the record store. And so that show was with Kevin DeBrow, had a band called DeBrow, and he opened up the show at the country club. And we were all in the front row just fucking losing all of our buttons and headbanging and doing all this shit, And after the show, Lars was talking about Metallica, his band that he was getting going, and that they were going to come up to the Bay Area because LA was like full of posers and they didn't, So, and there was a lot of fans up there, a lot of tape trading kids up there in the Bay Area. So they came up and they didn't really have any vehicles or nothing. So I had a bus, and so I helped them load their shit to do the shows. Now they came up the first time with Ron, and I didn't help them then, but the second time they had Cliff. And that's when I helped them out, and we did a bunch of Metal Mondays, and then played at the Stone a few times, and then Exodus was also another band at the time with Kirk in it playing, and his Mark Whitaker's mom had a house in El Cerrito, and she said we could use the house to stay. So that was basically the Metallica Mansion house. Was Mark Whitaker's mom's pad. And I stayed in my bus in the front. And the guy stayed. Cliff, he would go home. He lived in the East Bay, so he'd go home. Dave and James were hosted by Lars, more or less. They were all kind of together from LA. And so they kind of hung out together at the house. Cliff would come over, and we had a little shed in the back, and we'd practice, and then we had no fucking money, dude, at all. And we'd walk up to the grocery store and get like a thing of bread and bologna or whatever the fuck. And then they would have parties at night, sometimes late at night. They'd have this Possessed was one of the bands that was just starting with Larry Lalonde. I think he was, from Primus later on. So those guys, Monolith was another band. Debbie Abono, who ended up managing those bands, she was coming over. But yeah, they would have these parties, and I was older than a lot of these kids, so it was all kind of like their kind of deal. I was kind of more into like psychedelic shit and older stuff, and So.
Were they drinking age at that time?
Yeah, but Lars was straight. He didn't do anything.
Okay.
James and Dave were drinking, or fake drinking. I don't know what they were doing. They always had bottles of shit. And Cliff was pretty cool, dude. He was smoking weed with me because I was smoking pot, and he was really could care less about all that shit. He was doing what he wanted to do,
Yeah, he didn't really get out of hand. He was kind of
he just did what he wanted to do, and he was way more like down to earth kind of. I mean, the other guys were from L.A. and Lars, to be quite honest, was a record collector kid, kind of nerdy. His dad was a tennis pro in Denmark, and he was supposed to be a tennis kid too. So so he's playing drums. He's trying to learn drums, and he was all into new wave British heavy metal bands and all that shit. So, of course, he gets the thing going, and then there was like one morning at the house where he's on the phone talking to Johnny Z. He gets off the phone. He goes, "Hey, Bob, I'm talking to Johnny Z, and they want us to go to New York. You want to go to New York?" I go, "Nope." I sit down at the table. I go, "Lars, is this really? You think this stuff's going to catch on, huh?" He goes, "Oh yeah." I go, "Okay." I mean, it was pretty noisy we had punk rock going on, right? And I was like, okay, I wasn't a punk rock guy, but a lot, James and Dave liked a lot of punk rock. They were into the Misfits and all that kind of stuff, L.A. And so that kind of attitude didn't really matter to the kids because that was part of their deal where there was no punk rock in me. Or in like the old, the people that own the record store, we were like sight guys and more like, that kind of shit, So I just didn't think that stuff was going to fly, myself personally. It was just noisy. The shows were these kids just going nuts and getting on the stage and jumping off, and everybody's running around and all bunch of dudes, a lot more dudes than anything else. And so they went to New York. I didn't want to go. They got rid of Dave, is what I heard. Like Dave and Lars used to quarrel quite a bit. And so they sent his ass flying halfway over to New York and flew Kirk in. And I don't think anyone told anybody else in Exodus that, they were like going to play or something. No, where's Kirk? Oh, he flew to fucking New York to join Metallica.
Did you already kind of know about that happening since you were?
That was happening like right there. Nobody knew about it. No, it was like surprise kind of. I think it just happened so fast.
Yeah.
There was no secret or nothing. It just happened.
Oh, okay.
They
needed the guy.
In the heat of the moment, Lars, fuck you, Dave. Get out of here.
Yeah.
And he didn't know, well, what am I going to do? Well, let's call Kirk. And Kirk just flew right over there, dude. Okay, I'm there.
Yeah. So what was Exodus like at that time? Were they kind of...
Oh, dude, Bailoff was killer. Yeah. Paul Bailoff, the singer. Yeah, they were good. They were real good. They were just really like... a lot of bands were almost better than Metallica. Mm-hmm. Slayer was starting to work on something that was a little bit darker, and, they were kind of... they were kind of meddling with stuff that hadn't really happened yet. And Anthrax, the New York band that was already established, they were very, very good at doing that thrash. They were inventing thrash with that Soldiers of Metal 45, and then the Festival of Metal album came out.
Yeah.
So I think Metallica was one of the second records to come out to Kill 'Em All on that same kind of note of stuff, kind of fast, punky sounding. Hard rock, it's like long hair as opposed to punk, and it has leads as opposed to like no leads at all, and like punk rock, kind of shitty. So that, and then they they went to Europe when Kill 'Em All came out. They went over to Europe and everybody loved them over there. They set up all these deals with like Music for Nations and all these labels over there to put the product out over there. And then the second album, they did a second album. And then I think when they did the third one was like Master of Puppets. I think the Elektra picked them up on that. Yeah. Elektra might have picked them up on the second one. I can't remember. But Elektra would have gotten rid of me. And they got rid of Mark Whitaker because I think he had flown over. He was helping them out too.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They basically got rid of everybody except for the 4 members, and said that they put union people in there because they're on a major label now. Mm-hmm. So, and that's where things took off.
Yeah.
You know, the next thing you know, they're on the fucking Grammys. Like nobody even knows what they were on the Grammys for. You remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was I don't know.
The first one when they lost to Jethro Tull.
Ian Anderson's going, what the fuck? What is this? Yeah, nobody knew about that. But yeah, and then I saw. I heard about what happened to Cliff, like right when it happened, and it was all real. I was working at a little record store here in Monterey, and someone came in and told me. And then after that, they got the guy from Flotsam and Jetsam, I think, Jason, flew him in from Arizona, and he just continued. I think he was on the And Justice for All album, maybe? Oh, that was Cliff, right?
No, it was Jason.
That was Jason. Okay, so last one with Cliff was Puppets.
Yeah. Jason even continued the Master Puppet store in Japan.
Right, okay, yeah.
November, it was very soon after.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and and like when they started getting real big and all that stuff, I kind of lose interest in all the major bullshit because I like the small bands that start up and do new things and kind of like that deal. Once they start getting big and all that, then it's I do like stuff on that Black record. I mean, when that stuff was coming out, I liked it. It was kind of messy. You know what I mean? It was kind of like okay, kind of. If you're used to listening to Hendrix and Cream and Zeppelin and all this like really well done hard rock shit, and then this comes along and it's just like okay, I mean you deal with it, and I mean fuck now I'm listening to black metal and death metal and all kinds of shit with monster vocals. So I don't care anymore, but it was kind of getting into the stuff was kind of okay.
Yeah. Do you catch those dudes on Day on the Green in Oakland?
No, the only time I really ever saw those guys at a big show was when they played at the Cow Palace, and they had an open section in the middle of the stage.
Oh, okay.
Where you could win tickets from like the radio station there.
Yeah.
And get in the pit in that middle.
Pit.
And so James is walking around spitting on them, and kick him in the head. Bam! I'm thinking. And then they have 2 drum sets on stage, and Lars and James are driving. They're driving drums around. I'm like, fucking Spinal Tap here. I mean, because I remember, hanging out in El Cerrito in the house.
Yeah.
There was Godsmack, I think, opened up for him on that tour.
Okay, yeah, I was on that.
A friend of mine took me to the show up there in Cow Palace and got tickets and all that shit, and then. Because he knew, you used to work with him and all that stuff. And I go, yeah, but I don't deal with any of this shit anymore, So he goes, well, let's, you want to go? I go, yeah, let's check them out. And they were real, like, commercial and, doing, just kind of funny,
Yeah.
That they were that big. And that's really the only time I've ever seen them after that.
Okay, so last time you probably saw him before that was right
then? Well, no, doing the
Kabuki Theater maybe, or the Stone?
Doing the albums. Before the albums, we were playing at the Stone.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly all the places up in the city. I remember off Broadway, up there over the Mabuhay Gardens. Oh, that was Spastic Children.
Okay, yeah.
That was James and Kirk, and that was later on. That would be later on.
Okay.
Like a punk rock thing they did.
Yeah, they had James McDaniel and Fred Cotton.
Yeah. So yeah, I just I remember doing shows at the Stone.
Okay.
I'm just trying to think of where else that.
Probably saw maybe Ruthie's.
I remember doing a lot of shows at Ruthie's, but I don't know if we played there.
Okay.
Yeah. I just keep remembering the Stone as doing a few shows at that place.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wasn't there very long. I mean, from the time they came back the second time and got that place in El Cerrito, and then got the call from Z. It might have been a few months, maybe.
Yeah, they were barely home once they went to New York, because then they didn't kill them.
And I had a pad in San Francisco. I was sharing it with this chick, and all my records were there and everything. So I kind of, I had a place in the city, but I was just kind of hanging out in my bus, helping Metallica out, for however long and what they needed to do. And that's probably about it, dude.
Yeah, you had mentioned you met Jan Burton, Cliff's mom.
I did. She came into the record exchange a couple of times, like when Cliff was still alive. Like when they were touring and stuff. She was all happy, they were on tour in Europe, and she's real nice. Because she lived out there in the East Bay somewhere, And the record store was all metal in the East Bay, the record exchange.
Okay.
It was all heavy metal. So that's, a lot of people that were into the metal stuff knew that shop was all.
Did Cliff ever head out that way?
Cliff was never in there, no.
Oh, okay, yeah, Walnut Creek, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, a bit of a ways from Castro Valley.
Yeah.
That's cool. So Jan would go in there. Would she be like, "This is my son. This is my
son"?
Son.
Yeah. Well, she came in there once that I remember when I was in there.
Cool.
Yeah, I told her that I worked with him not too long ago, and she goes, "Yeah, I heard you, Bob," and I go, "Yeah," and she goes, "Okay." She was nice.
Yeah.
She was real sad afterwards. Real sad afterwards. Yeah.
You ever meet his sister, Connie?
I never met his sister or his dad.
Oh, okay. Yeah, both really cool people. I was fortunate to meet his dad before he passed, and then Connie.
Yeah.
I'm still friends with her and speak to her regularly.
Good. So you're dedicated to to Cliff.
Oh yeah, got my Cliff Burton tattoo, the Misfits like him. And then my wife.
So he liked the Misfits too, huh?
What was that?
He liked the Misfits too.
Yeah.
Cliff did. I didn't know that. I knew that the other two guys did.
I got a snippet from Jerry Only. He sent a video for the event, and he said that because of Cliff Burton, so Misfits are already winding down.
Yeah.
It was already doing Samhain.
Right.
Metallica comes up with Kill 'Em All, and so Misfits already an afterthought. Because of Cliff, that's what started giving Misfits their notoriety. Because of T-shirts he kept wearing on stage. So he said, Cliff Burton Day, because of Cliff, we are who we are.
And they covered a Misfits thing
a
in
couple
that.
times. Yeah, Green Hell.
Yeah.
Last
and
Caress.
was that a Samhain thing they covered too, maybe?
Possibly. I know they did Last Caress and Green Hell.
Yeah.
Garage Days.
Right.
Yeah. What was the Bay Area like? So you were there for like '83, so you saw the scene kind of come up from nothing. Like
I was there from like '79. I mean, because I used to go up to the city all the time and see Yesterday and Today.
Oh, Y&T, love them.
Yeah, when they were Yesterday and Today.
Yeah.
And it was all punk rock. It was all punk. The whole area, dude, was all punked out.
Like Flipper.
Yep, Mabuhay and all that shit off Broadway. And then. I used to go to all the record stores up there. I was living with a girl that was like a hippie. She was like a hippie in the '60s. She was a nurse here in the hospital, so we lived here in Monterey and we go up there all the time. And
so you were back and forth.
Yeah, because I was going to shows all the time up there.
I mean, that's me too. That's where all the shows are. So I drive up there.
And then when I was working in Santa Cruz at a record store, and these guys coming in were selling bootlegs out of a van. And me and Bill Hale and John Strudensky, we started a fanzine in my living room here on Pine, and it was Metal Rendezvous magazine. And Bill was a photographer, and me and John were doing stories. I think this kid Tim was in there too, but he's dead now. And so we actually started doing stories and getting some interviews, and John got promos set up to where you get promos in the mail, and so yeah, from doing that. That's where, let's see, I'm trying to figure out how that ties in. I was working in Santa Cruz, and then the guy, we were doing metal. Me and Stred and Bill Hill knew about all that shit. He was getting all these 45s in the mail from England, from Bullet Records. He was getting like Soldier and fucking Hollow Ground and Jaguar and all, Handsome Beast and all that shit, right? So I started finding out where I could order that stuff from distributors over here, and I got it over in Santa Cruz. The guy let me order it, so I was getting in a Blizzard of Oz, Metal from Others, Motorhead, all that shit was coming into the shop. And when those two guys in the van came in, selling boots, they go, "Hey, where'd you get this stuff?" And I go, "Oh, that's brand new. That's coming out of England right now." And they go, "Yeah, we were just there, and it's huge." And they go, "We're gonna open up a store in San Francisco. You want to come help us?" And I go, and I'm like, "Huh?" And they go, "Oh, but before we go, we're gonna go down and meet Lemmy, you ever heard of? And I'm going, what? He goes, yeah, he's a friend of ours. And then Motorhead's coming over, and he was in Hawkwind, and so I told the guy that I was working for, dude, and he goes, yeah, you got to go. So I split with this guy, we the bootleg guys, and went down and met Lemmy and met Lars, and then came back up. They were opening, the shop was pretty new, the record store on Polk Street. And they were mainly doing a bunch of like rare psych, private label psych shit, because one of the owners, and then his wife was she was into the metal stuff, and me and Greg were into the metal. I was into the metal stuff more, I think, because they were more into psych shit, and they were kind of like, didn't really know about the metal. And so they knew that I had a bunch of it myself. I was collecting the stuff already, and so we started getting that stuff in, and then people started knowing about it. Then when Metallica came, and we were trading tapes, Lars was a tape trader kid. So yeah, and then the scene in San Francisco, there was already like Steel and Anvil Chorus and Church of Metal before they became Metal Church.
Oh, really?
And Las Rocket.
Las Rocket, yeah.
They were all playing around all over the place, so there was already like a little scene there.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I didn't know that. And
Yeah.
then, so probably
Exodus
was
was playing, yeah.
coming up, and then Metallica.
Hans
played
Naughty.
up here.
There was some glam bands, and it was because in the East Bay, one of the guys in Exodus, his little brother had a squad. They had like the East Bay Death Squad or whatever. They would go around and beat up posers. What they considered, they would figure out, okay, these guys are posers, and start fights with them and shit. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, Motley.
They jumped my ass once.
Did they really?
In fucking Ruthie's.
What for?
I was watching Death Angel.
Uh-huh.
And nobody knew who Death Angel were. They were just brand new,
Yeah.
They didn't even have a singer yet. It was 4-piece. Mark wasn't singing. And nobody was there. So, and dude, I was older than them, and I used to wear shit like patched up jeans, boots with the shit all over them, the gear, and then I'd have like a cool like a Led Zeppelin kind of Robert Plant shirt, like over like a metal shirt with bullet belts and shit, and then maybe puffy sleeve or with a bunch of shit. You know what I mean? Like look kind of like a hippie dude. Like not a fucking full on metal guy with the same little outfit on that everyone wore, right?
Uniform.
Yeah. So at the Death Angel show, I was going to start working with them. Mm-hmm. So I went to check them out, and I'm hanging out there watching them, and they're just mowing up a storm. And then these like 4 kids come and they start dancing around me and bumping into me. So I'm like, I know about the pit, fuck, I don't want to do the pit. So I moved. Like if you move, then they won't, then they're going to do the pit. Well, they moved where I moved. So then I moved again to the other side. And when they came the third time, I got one of them. I popped one of them in the head, got one of them in a headlock, and then my buddy came down. His name was John Hurd. He ended up working for Bill Graham, but he was like helping doing the sound system or something, doing the lights. I forgot, but he came down and pulled guys off of me, and he knew him. He's like, dude, you know who this guy is? He helps your fucking brother's band. He works at the record exchange. And they're like, oh, he's a poser. Bam! I hit him in the head again, dude. Bam! I had skull rings and shit like Lemmy. So yeah, they ripped my shirt all up. So anyway, yeah, it was pretty funny. The posers, dude. Like, what the fuck? I mean, dude, you kids are all posers. Fuck, you guys.
You're wearing the uniform.
You guys are poser little bitches.
Yeah, well, Paul Bailoff's command, I guess.
Bailoff, he was cool, dude. Bailoff was just so doped up. He could care less about posers or not. Yeah, dude, he used to come in, when I opened this shop over in Monterey, he used to come into that store with Wolf. Okay. And he was hanging out in Carmel Beach, I think. And he'd pull out all this shit out of his pocket. There'd be like pills in there and baggies and dust and all. And he'd lay it all out. And he'd go, hey, you want to do some of this with me? I'm like, what the fuck is it, Paul? Because I used to like do a bunch of speed, And so he's chopping shit up. And I don't know what I go, dude, I think I'll let you do that. He'd do it. I don't know what it was. A couple of times he came in, he actually had baggy of speed, and I'd do somebody.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was pretty much just like hanging out doing dope.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he didn't really care about no posers and all that shit,
He was just a wild dude.
Yeah, just fucking Bailoff,
Yeah.
And Bailoff and Wolf. And Yeah, so that's pretty much, and then a lot of that metal scene was just like a bunch of guys acting like idiots,
Yeah.
a bunch of kids.
Pretty much the same nowadays.
Yeah.
Then it was the first time it happened.
Yeah, I mean, I just was never. It's weird because you weren't really allowed to deal with rock music when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. Rock was kind of and so if you go to a show and you want to kind of be cool, you don't want to hurt nothing. You want to kind of have a good time and be cool, so you can do it again. But these kids, they're like, here we are allowed to fucking do this kind of music to begin with.
Yeah.
Like, fuck, that's legit. Like, you guys are luckier as shit just to have this garbage going on, right? And now you want to go, and the first time you get into a club, just tear it up. So, and dude, that's what happened. Nobody could play anywhere because of the insurance. Because these kids would tear shit up for no reason. For no fucking reason, dude. And it was, alcohol was always involved, pretty much, and it was a cool thing, like alcohol.
Yeah, I heard Ruthy's would serve minors. If you can get to the counter, you can get a drink.
And it was all just like, fucking yesterday, today on that first album, alcohol. Everybody loves that shit, dude. I mean, I was never a big drinker myself. I was doing other shit. So I never really got into the alcohol. I never got into getting so drunk I didn't know what I was doing and throwing up and all that shit. But all those kids were fucking idiots, dude. Pretty much, yeah.
Did that scene respect Y&T back then? Like, they were a little glammy compared to...
It's funny because all them kids back then were all just staunch fucking, and you can't get... I mean, they all knew about shit because they were Bay Area kids. They were city kids. So they knew about shit, and secretly they probably enjoyed it because it was hard rock.
Yeah,
but
awesome
nobody admits it until 30 years later when you're all on Facebook. Oh yeah, you're yesterday today one of the greatest fucking bands. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it's like for real, they always were and always will be. But the kids couldn't really say it like that until later. Mm-hmm. Now when they can be like open and not get in trouble for it. Because back then, dude, you had to. Yeah, it was a closet thing. You couldn't tell none of the kids you were listening to, fucking Church of the Poison Mind by Culture Club. They're like, what? I like a Thompson Twin song. What? Bam! It was funny, dude. Funnier than shit. It was like all metal all the time. Yeah. And dude, I mean, and the heaviest shit going, right? It was fucking Merciful Fate and Venom.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's a little Baby Slayer and then Possessed. But everything else was pretty rock and roll. It was pretty much rock and roll, hard rock, fast.
Yeah.
And then, later on you take it a little bit further with, Carcass and Napalm Death, and that's where all the death shit started.
Did you see like a second wave of thrash coming? So it was like
I did.
Forbidden,
Testament, Forbidden, yeah.
So what was that? Was that like the younger kids?
Yeah, those were the kids who were coming to the parties, Metallica's parties. Yeah,
okay.
Those guys. Greg from fucking Forbidden. Yeah, and let's see, Chuck Billy, he had cancer for a while, and they did like the big benefit for him with all them bands. And Harold O, right?
Yeah.
He was a kid. He was a kid taking pictures, and now he's like playing with DRI or something. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and still taking pictures, right?
Yeah, still taking pictures. Yeah. His buddy Brian Liu as well.
Yeah, Brian put me in that book. Actually, it's on the DVD in the credits in the back. There's a shot that he has got me in with KJ Doughton and Ron Quintana, and maybe him. There's four.
Is it just on the credits or is it in the book?
It's in the credits of the DVD. Like after the thing's over, they show a bunch of these pictures. And there's one where there's like me hanging out with these. We all did fanzines.
You still got the beard?
No. I was mustache, long hair. I was doing one of these fucking Venom hands. Doing the pose thing, but I, jeans jacket on and, long ass hair, and I didn't have all the gear. And the other guys are all kids, dude. They're all just like looking like 16-year-old kids, because that's what they were.
Yeah.
Ron Quintana, KJ Doughton. And was Brian Liu in that picture? I can't remember if Brian, it was somebody else in there. There was 4 guys in there, and we were all there because we did fanzines. And of course, Ron did the Metal Mania.
Yeah.
Best one, dude. That's a killer magazine.
Yeah, I got a couple issues actually.
Yeah. Did you ever see Metal Rendezvous?
No.
Okay. There's a bunch of issues of that too. It was done way more the guys that ran that, Stravinsky was a total straight guy. Total, like, fucking, straight guy. And he, nice guy, soccer guy, but way into metal, way into the scene. But it was all formatted real nice, and he would do a lot of, like, mainstream metal acts because he'd get to meet them and do the backstage. Like, dude, there's all kinds of pictures with Stravinsky backstage with Metallica. You've seen the tall, blonde-haired guy?
I have looked up.
There's all those old pictures that Bill Hale took and shit at the Stone with Ron, even with Ron and stuff. That tall, thin guy with the blonde perm, that's fucking Stravinsky. And he's in all them pictures. I think John ended up buying Lars' collection. Like, Lars had to sell his record collection.
Oh.
Was it? I think John bought it. Either John or this guy down south. Somebody bought all of Lars' records because he had all of them in boxes in the hallway in the El Cerrito place.
Just because you're going to live on the road kind of thing?
Yeah. And he had a bunch of rare, like, metal stuff and old hard rock stuff. And maybe, I think John got it. I can't remember who got it, but anyway.
Let me take a picture of this flyer right here, but hold on 1 minute. So what is that, this Metallica?
That's just a letter Lars wrote me when he was sending flyers. That's a flyer for some show in L.A. Now this is a picture of there's Stravinsky right there, and there's one of the guys at Record Vault. There's Lemmy, and there's me. Yes, ma'am. Hey, you. Oh yeah, I am. And then this picture right here is me that's me right there in the Record Vault with Biff just walked in the door. All right, I'll talk to you later, okay? Bye-bye. And then this is the record exchange in Walnut Creek. And that's Manure from Loudness. And these are the newsletters that used to come from Record Exchange for mail order. And they were all this stuff is all metal. Like, all of it's metal. Yeah, there's another one of those things. That's the guy that helped me out of the fucking Exodus Death Squad. That's me there, and that's John Hurd. So yeah, I just looked like a normal guy back then. I wasn't like like that's a normal guy with a Motorhead shirt on.
It's a mighty fine mustache right there too.
Yeah. Mustacheless in that one.